It started as an ordinary Tuesday evening in New York City, but what unfolded that night would forever reshape the life of millionaire entrepreneur John Kennedy. For years, Job had been known for his sharp suits, towering business empire, and the cold efficiency with which he ran his life. He rarely paused to notice the people around him. But on that day, something tugged at his attention, something so unusual, it compelled him to follow his maid after she quietly finished her shift at his mansion. Maria, the maid, was a reserved woman in her late 40s. She hardly spoke more than a few polite words during her work. She came early, left late, and never asked for anything beyond her modest paycheck. To John, she was just another employee in the background of his success. But for reasons he could not explain, that evening as Maria walked down the street clutching her worn handbag, John decided to follow her at a distance. What he saw next stopped him cold. Instead of heading home, Maria walked to a dimly lit part of the city, where the scent of gasoline lingered and the walls of abandoned buildings bore the scars of poverty. She entered a small, crumbling shelter. Through the glass, John could see her unpacking containers of food she had quietly prepared from scraps at his home, and serving them to homeless families waiting with desperate eyes. Children in ragged clothes ran to her, hugging her legs, calling her Mama Maria. John stood frozen. This woman, whom he had barely acknowledged in his luxurious home, was the very lifeline for dozens of people he never even knew existed. She had nothing of her own, yet gave everything she had. For weeks afterward, John kept following Maria. He learned that every evening after finishing her shift, she went to that shelter. Out of her meager wages, she bought supplies, bread, and sometimes second-hand clothes for children. And on days she had no money, she simply gave her time, her love, and her presence. The realization pierced John's heart. Here he was, a man worth millions, yet the one teaching him the true meaning of wealth was a maid earning barely enough to survive. For the first time in years, John felt ashamed of his indifference. But shame quickly turned into action. One night, unable to hold back, John entered the shelter himself. Maria was shocked to see him there, standing awkwardly in his expensive coat. But instead of judgment, John offered her a quiet smile and began serving food alongside her. Wordlessly, they worked together that night, handing out warm meals and listening to stories of struggle from people society had forgotten. That was only the beginning. John Kennedy would go on to transform the small shelter into a fully funded community center. With his resources, he expanded its reach, providing education programs, healthcare assistance, and job opportunities for hundreds of families. Yet, in every speech he gave about the project, John always mentioned one name: Maria. This woman, he would say with emotion in his voice, taught me that true wealth is not measured by what you keep, but by what you give. Maria never sought recognition, but her story rippled through the community and beyond. She became a quiet symbol of kindness, a reminder that even the smallest acts of compassion can create waves of change. And for John, the encounter reshaped his entire legacy, from being remembered as a cold businessman to being cherished as a man who rediscovered his humanity. The lesson is clear: sometimes the greatest teachers in life are the ones we least expect. And sometimes, following the humble footsteps of another can lead us to discover a deeper, richer version of ourselves. So the next time you pass by someone who seems invisible, an employee, a neighbor, a stranger, remember John and Maria's story. Because behind every silent face, there may be a hidden act of courage, kindness, or sacrifice that could change not just their life, but yours too.